Hello, my name is Lauren with Lauren Teaches Flute, and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, I want to talk about how to develop a consistent tone quality on the flute. And this is a topic that is very close to home for me because I remember I spent years feeling like I couldn't trust my sound, like I was powerless to my sound. I would just cross my fingers and hope that my sound would be there, not knowing if it was going to be there on the day I needed it to be there, and just kind of feeling just afraid of what my sound would be like that day, and not confident balancing it out or troubleshooting it or working on it and solving the problem. So how do we get from that place to trusting our sound and feeling like there's a steady consistency with our sound and feeling confident in troubleshooting our own problems? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. So before I get into this topic, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. Also know that I do offer private online Skype lessons, so if you're interested in working one-on-one with me, I'll leave a link to that info in the description below. All right, so I have three main tips for this topic, and not one is more important than the other. I feel like all three of them together is what gave me trust in my sound and consistency and kind of a lot more certainty in dealing with tone, dealing with imbalances in my tone, troubleshooting my own problems, and becoming my own best teacher. So starting with tip number one is to learn and know the mechanics of flute playing inside and out. Learn and know them, and learn and know them again. Learn everything you can and really internalize it. And this is not only in the mind, but in the muscle memory and everything else. So of course, a lot of this can be achieved through working one-on-one with somebody. If you're taking private lessons, that can give you a lot of understanding of how to play the flute, obviously. But there's also other ways you can learn and deepen your study into this. And one of those ways is reading method books and studying the methodology of flute playing. So a couple of books that I often talk about on my channel are Kincaiddiana and The Gilbert Legacy. And I really love both of the books. And The Gilbert Legacy is something that I just feel like it conceptualizes everything in such a practical, kind of easy to understand way. There's, if you have a question about the low register, what should my aperture look like? How much should I be covering? Where should I be angling the air? What should it feel like in my stomach? What should it feel like in my throat? The Gilbert Legacy is a great book that actually just goes into the nitty-gritty of all of that stuff. It has pictures, it has exercises, and I really just love it. I think it's an excellent book to learn a lot about the mechanics of playing the flute and really getting a better understanding of it. So that's my first tip. And continue. It's a ever continuing study to just keep learning, keep studying. And those are two books to start with. Roger Mather has a series of books, The Art of Playing the Flute, and there's a lot of different books out there that have that. There's also the, Flute Talk. It's like a magazine I used to get, and like different flutists will write an article about different topics, and so I would always love to read those articles and learn how somebody else talks about sound or talks about scales, and just learning as much as I could in addition to my lessons. So that would be definitely my first tip. My second tip would be to internalize your dream sound. So especially if you're first starting to play the flute, and maybe you're even self-studying, a really big piece that I want to recommend is listening to other people play, listening to the great flutists. I definitely have a list of flutists. I love their sound. I love to listen to their sound. I love the tone colors of certain players. I love the vibrato of certain players. I like, some flutists have like a really robust, powerful sound, and some flutists tend to have a more silky kind of sound that's very ringy and sweet. And so I love listening to all the different ways we can play the flute, and I love to carry those qualities that I'm hearing into my own sound. And it doesn't have to be specific to just listening to flutists. You can listen to singers, you can listen to string players to draw inspiration from and just develop your ear from. So internalize your dream sound. What this might look like is deciding, to listen, let's say, to a flute player, putting some headphones on, and just absorbing it, and doing that on a regular basis. And I like to ask myself questions when I do this. For example, if I'm listening to a flute player, I like to ask, like, almost imagine that I'm the one playing, and asking, oh, what does my mouth feel like when I'm playing with this tone color? What are my lips doing? What does it feel like in my throat when I'm playing this way? What does it feel like in my chest? What does it feel like in my stomach? And just kind of imagining what it feels like to play with that tone color. If that's hard to do, don't worry so much about that, but just get an ear for what you can do and how the flute can sound. So you can even write and take notes on their sound, or study their sound, or start describing their sound. Become very familiar with it and allow that to inspire your own tone practice and your own playing and your own vision for your own sound, if that makes sense. So that's my second tip for developing a consistent tone that you can trust. And my third tip is to start a troubleshooting binder. And I made a video about this a while back, and so I'm going to link that video up here and in the description below. So I won't go too much into it because I go really into depth in that video about how I started my troubleshooting binder and what it is. But the gist of the troubleshooting binder is when something's out of balance in your sound, you're developing the ability to troubleshoot it and balance it out on your own. And you're also developing your tone awareness and playing awareness and what you're actually doing when you're playing with a troubleshooting binder. So the gist of the troubleshooting binder is when you have a problem, let's say your low notes are hard to get out, and maybe sometimes you can get them out, but they're not consistent. So if you're having this problem, if you have a troubleshooting binder, what you would do is you would write this problem down at the top of the page and highlight it and describe it in as much detail. Describe what it feels like. If you can be a little bit more specific than it's hard to get out. Maybe you can write, it feels tight, it feels like my jaw's clenched, it feels like everything's kind of tightened up in my mouth. Maybe you can write that down. Write down the problem, highlight it, and then use all the things that you're learning about. Use what you're learning about the mechanics of playing the flute. If you're taking lessons, use what you're learning in lessons. If you're listening, use and maybe even try to imitate or emulate some qualities you want to have in your own sound. And use all these things to do your own experimentation. And you may notice that some things will work. You may notice that you figure something out that day. So if you find, okay, my low notes are hard to get out, but I noticed when I rolled out and covered about a third of the embouchure hole with my bottom lip, that the sound opened up. I noticed when I made my aperture bigger, if I made my aperture wider, or if I had a wider shape in the mouth, it was easier to get the sound out. I noticed if I just relaxed my throat. You can write all the solutions down for that day. Keep that page there so that when you have the problem again, you can go back and see what you did last time and continue experimenting, and you'll find even more ways to troubleshoot that one problem. And then you can have this troubleshooting binder for many years. I started mine in 2012 and it's 2022 now, so I've had my same troubleshooting binder for 10 years. I have things I wrote in 2013, in 2017, to troubleshoot the very same problem. I'm always coming up with new ideas and creative ways to troubleshoot my own problems. Over time, you'll start to see a pattern, and you'll start to recognize what's happening and be able to fix it almost, as soon as it starts, that you won't necessarily need to rely on your troubleshooting binder anymore. You can kind of start to memorize and troubleshoot your own tendencies that come up, because you'll probably notice in the beginning you'll have repeating things that keep happening. And when you figure out enough ways to solve it and enough ways to approach it and have enough playing awareness to see what's actually happening, you can troubleshoot it and get through it and get back into balance pretty quickly. So that has been a game changer. So I feel like all these three things together really are the things that helped me develop and trust my sound and feel like I have confidence and I know what to expect, and I can rely on it. I feel independent when it comes to balancing and fixing my own sound and improving my own sound. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos and tutorials like this one. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you in another video very soon. Until next time, take care. Bye.